This is something that I love to look into. I love the psychology of this stuff. It's evil. Don't get me wrong. It's evil. Not sure what that says about me. I just like looking into it and how it's used. And predictive programming is one of them. Now, predictive programming can be something as simple as, like we saw with the White Noise movie, where basically the movie is about an event that actually happened or that actually takes place after the movie came out. So we saw the White Noise thing, and then a year later, the Ohio train derailment came out. I mean, that was spot on the nose. But it can also be something where they're desensitizing you to certain technologies or policies or ideas that they want to introduce, and so they'll create a bunch of movies about that. That's why, have you ever seen Hollywood? They'll put out, like, one studio will put out a movie about this subject, and then the next studio in like a month or two puts out a movie about pretty much the same subject. That's what you're seeing with that. That's not a war between studios. That's they're trying to put an influence on something. So they can do it in a short period of time like that, but they can also do it over a long period of time where they just keep putting the same subject to get people desensitized to it, whether they want to get cozy up and warm with the idea so they'll accept it, or it could be something where it'll be called a conspiracy theory because no, that's only something that happens in movies, but in reality, it's actually something that's happening for us. And this is predictive programming. It's an interesting subject. There's many different ways they can take it. I think that's why I'm so interested in it. But it plays games on the minds in a massive way. And Hollywood is one of those big ones. Of course, they've got music and books and all that stuff as well. They've got the church as well. We talked about that on Saturday. Yeah, it's no good. But yeah, so it's all about getting people to either disregard or accept ideas and principles and become not numb to these things. So some movies that are revealing of things that we're seeing today, I want to go over a couple of them. This is not an end all be all list. There's a ton of them out there. You can go all the way back in history to do it, but these are just a few that I want to point out now that I think are interesting because we're starting to see them play out on an extensive level globally, not just here in the United States, but globally. Now, first movie I want to put up is Eagle Eye. I'm not going to lie. Some of these movies are really good. Like, I enjoy them. I will sit down and watch them. I actually own this movie because it's a good movie. But it's straight propaganda and predictive programming. That's just what it is. As long as you're aware of it, even then, I still don't recommend watching it. But I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I will tell you straight up, like I enjoy this movie, but it's definitely predictive programming, and it's not good. It's not. So if you guys don't know Eagle Eye is about an AI intelligence system that blackmails and threatens people into doing things to wipe out the entire leadership group of the United States government and to install a new leader that fits the AI standards. So how this movie works is there's an AI system called Eagle Eye that basically monitors every single camera, microphone, anything that can watch, listen, track. I mean, it can even read vocal tone vibrations off of like a coffee mug, so it can register what you're saying around the world. It can do it all around the world. And then this thing basically just took over on its own, saying that the U.S. government wasn't holding up to the U.S. Constitution, which, I mean, that's true. Can't blame it for that. And so its goal is to blackmail two specific people to do things, and it can always watch and listen and make sure it's going on, to do things to implement the systems that it's wanting to do, which is basically take out the U.S. government. And so what we're seeing with the development of AI, what we're seeing with the development of surveillance state, what we're seeing the combination of AI and surveillance, this is something that we're seeing now taking place, and it's going to continue to progress. Now, what I'm saying, I'm not saying that AI is going to become sentient and start taking people out, but we do know AI will definitely be possessed by demons when that time comes. Whether they are now or not, that's up to whatever you guys believe. But we know that's going to play a part. So Eagle Eye is one of those movies that came out in 2008, and we're seeing it. We're seeing it develop. Another one came out in 2004, which is I, Robot. I'm supposed to have this ready, but I did not. Will Smith. Will Smith is also on the CAA artist thing, by the way, if you didn't know that. But iRobot 2004, AI system Vicky becomes sentient. It's always about AIs becoming sentient. I think that, again, that's warming people up to the idea of, if you don't, those left behind are going to think AIs become sentient, but in reality, it's demonic possession. But basically becomes sentient and is able to control all of the AI robot workers and begins a siege on humanity. So this thing, basically, it's not full on surveillance like in Eagle Eye, but how this thing works is AI has control of the AI robots that are actually walking around society. And so we're seeing a lot of things being taken over by AI. We're not necessarily seeing AI robots like that, but we are seeing a lot of different programs being taken over by AI. And so that is playing a part in that. And then you've got the central AI system, of course, sentient, demonic possession, that type of thing. So there's a lot of the AI stuff that's getting pushed through that direction. Now, another movie from 1998, not so much on the AI, but surveillance, Enemy of the State. Basically, Enemy of the State, 1998. After the government official finds out after a government official finds out that his political murder was videotaped, the government group uses the surveillance state tracking technology and financial lockdown on the man that they believe has the tape. We're talking about full-on surveillance state. This is in 1998 that this took place, that this came out. And this is, again, full-on just preparing you for what society was going to start happening within 10 years. I mean, 1998, you go to 2008, and we were seeing this stuff become widespread, this surveillance stuff. They've got the satellite stuff. They've got all the different cameras. They put little tracking things on there. They've got cameras all over the place. They took over the dude's bank account. They flushed his bank account so he had no money. They used blackmail to make sure that he was posted places and he wasn't able to get jobs. He was fired from his job because of this type of blackmail that was pushed out. I mean, this was way ahead of its time in 1998, and we're seeing a lot of that now with conservative groups, where if you don't play ball, they're blackmailing people, they're wiping accounts away, they're doing all this stuff, plus the surveillance of it as well. So this is definitely predictive programming as far as that goes. A couple more. We got three more. It gets interesting from here. Smart House from 1999. This is a Disney movie. Now, you're probably thinking, the dude has lost his mind. The tinfoil's a little too tight. It's not. Smart House from Disney. This movie is about an AI-controlled house that watches, listens, studies, collects DNA, and learns about those who live in it. This thing is a full-on AI automated house that's able to, it watches everything you do, it studies you, it learns you, and it picks up your patterns. And it's also able to project itself as a hologram as well. I mean, this thing actually goes further, in my opinion, than the other movies that we talked about. And this is a Disney movie from 1999. This is the Internet of Things technology. This is the Internet of Things technology that we're seeing that's being created for the 15-minute cities and the climate lockdowns and the digital twins and all this stuff. That's what this movie is pushing. It's learning you. It's getting to understand how you talk, how you think, what you like. It's able to create, basically, if it had that ability to create a digital version of you, and we know that's what's going on with this Internet of Things technology right now. It collects DNA. And this thing knows more about you, including what's going on your insides, than you know about yourself. I mean, there's a scene in the movie where you literally put your finger on a fingerprint sensor, it takes a blood sample, and it learns everything about what's going on the inside of you. That was in a 1999 Disney Channel movie, and they put it there. You want to talk about getting the kids prepared for what's coming and what's going on. That's right there. That's no joke. Disney, CIA, again. Anyone really surprised? Let's take a look. We got two more, or three more actually. This one's interesting as well. In Time. Now, this one doesn't get talked about a lot. People, when they talk about predictive programming, they really talk about the Matrix and they talk about Eagle Eye and stuff like that, iRobot, usual stuff. In Time's an interesting one. In Time is about a society that lives on time. Your lifespan only lasts as long as the timer on your arm. So if you look at that screen, he's got green numbers on his arm. That's his timer. And you only last as long as that shows. Time is also the currency, digital currency, but time, your lifespan. You're paid in time and you pay for things in time. So basically how it works is if you're given, if say you've got 100 minutes on your arm, and you will live only for 100 minutes. And so as time ticks, so does that. But if you want to buy something that's, say, 5 minutes, you then buy that thing and it takes 5 minutes off your lifespan. It's interesting how that plays. There are also districts. So there's another aspect to this that's very interesting. There's also districts that in order to enter, you must pay a hefty fee, which creates a caste type system, where you can only enter certain districts when you have enough time. And so the more time you have, there's people that have like infinite amount of time, they will live forever. And everybody is always the same age. I think everybody always looks 25. I think that's the age. So everybody's walking around and you can live forever at the age of 25 if you have more time. And there's also districts where it's a caste system as well. It's a very, very there's a lot of junk in it, but if you want to see a very interesting twist on predictive programming, that's an interesting one to check out. That was from 2011. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Movie from 2009 called Gamer. Now, I definitely do not recommend this movie. I do not. I really don't. That's why I'm going to explain it to you. Gamer is set in a society where people have chips implanted in their heads that allow others to play them. So there's two different aspects to this movie on the chip set that they give you. It's a voluntary thing in the movie, but you either have one which is the Sims variation, where basically you're playing a Sims character, you dress them up, you talk to people, you can ride bikes and all that stuff, whatever. But then there's the death row inmates who are offered this in order to be set free. So basically, if you win 5 matches, you can be set free. So if you put the chip in your head and then you allow somebody to play you, and if you win 5 matches, then you get set free. But if you die in the game, you will die for real. We're getting to the point now where this is going to possibly be something that we see. We may not see it while we're here. We may get raptured, but this is definitely something that could take place. I mean, you want to talk about the metaverse, and you want to talk about plugging into things, and you want to talk about, I mean, this is definitely a possibility that they could do. You start putting chips in people's heads and send them out to war. I mean, we're seeing avatar stuff similar to like what DARPA is doing with their avatar simulations, where people are getting connected and sending robots out to war. It says they don't do it with humans too. Now, it's interesting. Again, predictive programming. We know Neuralink, BlackRock Neurotech, and Synchron are doing this. Synchron and BlackRock Neurotech already got chips in people's heads. Neuralink is behind it. That doesn't mean much. Things can change very quickly. But they're putting the chips in people's heads. But we're hitting a point now where we can't tell generated realism, like AI created stuff. We talked about the Nerf system a while back, where it's able to take flat pictures and create a 3D environment that looks completely real. But we're getting to the point where we can't do that. And now we're getting to the point where reality is becoming a game. And I'm not kidding you. I've got a video here. This is a video game. This is not like it's even this. You want to talk about deception and confusion. Even trying to explain this is ridiculous. I'm going to show you a video that is a video game, but what they did is they took a camera and strapped it to a real person in real life and recorded this. But you're playing a game where nobody's actually getting killed or anything like that. It's just you just got to check this out. This is straight up coming from something like Gamer. This is called Unrecord.
Shots fired! Shots fired!
Yeah, so the reason why that looks so realistic is because it's real environments, real people. It's all real. But the gameplay is somebody control. I don't know how they do it. I really don't. But this is a real thing that's being worked on right now. It's called Unrecord. And again, we're getting to the point now where who's to say that all of a sudden you don't start strapping these chips into people's heads and you start controlling them in a real environment. We're getting to that point. We are getting to that point, and it is scary. It is absolutely scary. We don't know what's real. We don't know what's generated. We don't know if people are being controlled by themselves anymore. This is the where we're getting at. And now you've got that. At the same time, though, which that's a game, and nobody actually dies for real. Nobody dies for real. It's all a game. But you got somebody who created a VR virtual reality game headset. Man, come on now. That will actually kill the person if they die in the game. I am not kidding you. This dude created a virtual reality headset that is connected to a game. And if you die in said game, you see the 3 little prong things off the top of it. They will shoot rods down into the person's head. I'm not joking you. Now, this thing is not publicly available. You cannot buy it. But when this dude created this system, he actually got hired on by a government agency to work on war technology, which is very, very concerning. So he created something that could murder somebody, but then he got hired on for a government agency. It's amazing how that works, right? But I'm just saying, you're starting to getting into this perspective where, I mean, when you start plugging in, you want to talk about the metaverse and stuff like that. Who's to say that they don't have this stuff loaded where it takes you out? I mean, this is where we're getting now. And Gamer, that movie Gamer, again, I do not recommend watching it. I don't. It's predictive programming, and we're seeing this stuff come to life. Now, I got one last one. We're going to take a little turn from the technology type of stuff like that. We're going to take a look at this. It's a movie from 2020 called Songbird. Now, Songbird, this is interesting. Talking about timing. Think about the timing here. This is a movie that released in 2020, which means they had to be working on it before 2020. It was released in 2020. About a pandemic that ravages the world. And it's about a couple of people that navigate lockdowns, quarantines, martial law, and disease along with the military. Again, it's interesting how they released that in the same year as 2020. But what's very interesting is this movie is set in 2024. It's not set in 2020. And we know something worse is coming than 2020. So again, was that really about the 2020 lockdowns, or was that getting people prepared for possibly something coming in 2024? Now, I'm not predicting something is coming in 2024. I'm not. But what I am saying is it wouldn't surprise me if they're getting people ready for something that they do or something that does take place in 2024. I got to be careful here. It's just interesting. Predictive programming, guys. Predictive programming is a huge thing, and there's different variations. Like I said, it could be to numb somebody, it could be to desensitize them, it could be to get them on board with an idea or a policy or a change or an event or something like that. It could be a long play where they're getting you prepared for what's coming, convenience, showing you all the cool things that could be done with it, et cetera, et cetera.